The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. I'm Andy Walker, and as per usual, I am here with my son Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
How art thou?
No, I'm all right. My eyebrows seem to have corrected themselves a bit by the looks of it.
Well, I'm glad about that.
I'm not.
Themselves, that's quite weird.
What?
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, how are you doing?
I'm still a bit achy after my athletics and gymnastics. My gymnastics at work the other week. But
all that practicing all their backflips, weren't it?
Oh, don't. My back is still hurting. My knee feels like I've got a golf ball under my kneecap.
Oh,
just one side of it.
You been to the doctors or anything?
No, I mean, considering it's only a week ago, I think I'm not doing bad, to be honest.
No, I've got to admit, it's not actually a week ago, really.
It's last Thursday morning.
Oh yeah, sorry, it was. So it's for it to be, and I bet you've probably still been working.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's not giving it a proper enough time to rest.
I can't afford not to.
No, I know, but this is what I'm saying. It's the fact that most people with that sort of injury would have gone, oh, I'll take a couple of days off. But the fact you've got to, you had to keep going.
Take some painkillers and get on with it. And all that.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway, we are here to do this review thing as always. And this week we have, as per normal, 2 shorts and long. So she'll get going.
Yeah.
The first short film is from 2022 and it is called The River. Now this is on, let me see what I'm doing, Super Freak Media. Writer director was Liam Banks. The cast is Sarah Wynne Cordas, Charlie Brintnell, Karen Best, Maximilian Beresford Jackson, Juliet Strobel, and the voices of Tonya Tosland and Chris Cox. There we go. The synopsis for this film, if I change my glasses so I can actually read things, says Sarah retreats to the river to escape family drama, but discovers something far more disturbing lurks beneath the water.
Yes. It's very sinister compared to what it actually says on YouTube, which is just don't go in the water.
Yeah, well, YouTube isn't the...
I know, but they're both very sinister, no matter which one you read. It's sort of just like, don't go in the water, but it doesn't say why, and then that one it sort of explains it, but it still doesn't make it any better.
No. What do you think?
Oh, I really like this, actually.
Yeah.
It was a lot of... well, actually, I'll rephrase. I liked it up to a point, and it was a certain point that let it down. But I really liked it. There was a lot of atmosphere build up in it. There was a lot of use of music and even natural sounds to make build up the tension. Yeah. And I loved the angles. Loved some of the camera angles they had. The cinematography in this was amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
The acting again was amazing. I loved some of the work. There was one little bit that let me down, for me personally, was just the creature. it done really well with everything else, and then the creature, it looked like a fake mask, and it's just like, if they'd done it without it, I think it would have looked better. If it's just been like a person that grabbed her,
Yeah.
I think it would have looked better. But it's just, other than that, I was saying it's not like a massively bad point for me. It's just the fact I looked at it and went, but I'm saying it's still an amazingly good film for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's great. I mean, as you say, the cinematography is brilliant. The use of drones and that in this was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you said, the camera angles where they go on the river, they're kind of following her and then also going in front of her on the river. It's really well
Some of the shots they did as well from underneath the water, looking up at her, I thought were amazingly done as well. Especially because by the looks of it, the canal or river they're in isn't the clearest in the world.
No.
So to be able to do that, and some of the shot they do with the ring drop and stuff like that, I think the cinematography and the camera work, even the sound work to this was amazingly done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the effects, I think, were really good. The lighting and sound effects, that sort of thing. I'd actually quite like to see this incorporated into a larger movie. Not necessarily carrying on the story, although that could be interesting, but maybe incorporated into like an anthology of like local myths or
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that you got a local area and this myth is a creature that lives in the river.
Yeah, because
another myth about sort of other things. Yeah, sort of. I think it would be work really well incorporated in the middle of something else.
Yeah, because I do agree, because it can be worked on, because even this story, not just what happens to her, but the little boy or little girl that's standing on the riverside,
Yeah,
it sort of reinforces the fact that it's sort of locally known.
yeah.
I think it's really well done. I'm saying it's just
I
a lot of I think a lot of the effects as well, or a lot of angles they did with the people in the water,
yeah,
were amazing.
they were really well done. It's just sort of the thing that got me was that the bit you were saying about when the creature comes out and drags her into the water. In my head, all I could see was the end of Friday the 13th. Because it was the same sort of thing, the creature comes up out of the water behind her, grabs her, and drags her into the water.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. What I liked about this as well is the fact it's telling a story without the emphasis on what's going on. It's telling her story and the fact that she's in there for secluding this and it wants to be alone, but not sort of going into the whole point of, oh, there's a dangerous monster. No, and that's all built up and all told with the atmosphere.
Yeah. It gradually sort of goes towards that, but it starts off being a very ordinary kind of story, which works really well. I really like that. Yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I really enjoyed it. Okay, our second short film is called Incoming. This was from 2017. The writer and director is Sam Klein. Got a feeling we've done a film by him before. I don't remember what it was. The cast was Kira Holing, Ryan Lelly, Tyler Messner, and Jesse Staccato. Now, the synopsis for this says, a message of doom echoes across the depths of space. An amateur researcher hears it and listens. One word, many languages, attack.
Yeah.
This was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I think it's a really good idea and the story's really good. The acting's pretty good and that. I just, I don't know. I felt that it was missing something and it would be better if it was made bigger, made longer. If there was more to it.
Yeah, I do. I think I do agree with you. Sorry, it felt like it's one of the ones that I'm not too sure what, but it felt like there was something missing. And I agree with you. The idea behind it and the premise behind it was amazing. It's been done in different ways, but not fully like this. I know there's been other things where you got a message from space, but it's all about the beings or whatever turning up or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is done a bit of a different way, but I liked the way that it's done.
Yes.
I agree with you about the fact there's a little bit missing, but I do agree with you. I think if it can be extended just a little bit, maybe just add a little bit more onto it and see if that helps it. But I think, again, this is a really good film.
It is a good film. I enjoyed watching it. I just got to the end of it and thought, I just want a bit more to
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what it was. As you say, the problem with it is we quite often say, if there's something missing, we can't always put a finger on what it is.
Yeah,
Feels like
it
there's
is good
something.
though to have it is good to have a film where you can't just go, that's definitely the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have to sit there and say, look, there's something wrong, there's something missing. Admittedly, it's just our opinion, but to sit there and
yeah,
say, look, we think there's something missing, not 100% sure what, but there is something a little bit, is better than saying, look, you're definitely rubbish at making these films because of this.
yeah.
But
No, I
to
agree.
say, look, you can work on it, it's an amazing piece of work, just keep tweaking it. I think it's better than saying it's actually a problem.
Yeah, and I
And
agree. I mean, I think, as I say, I do think it's a good film, and I think it's
mm,
well done. It's just, as you say, and it's our opinion. And for me, there was just something. I don't know what it was, but there was just something a bit missing.
yeah, I totally agree with you. It's the fact that it's just sort of, I think if it had been, I don't know, extended a little bit and maybe a little bit more of a, not explanation, but a little bit more of something added to it would have helped, I think, with it a lot more.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's definitely something missing. But I'm not saying it's a bad film. I just think
No,
it needs a little bit of tweaking, for my opinion, and that's
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Okay, on to our feature film. Now, our feature film this week is a classic of British cinema. It is the 1955 science fiction film, The Quatermass Experiment, which is also known in certain countries as The Creeping Unknown.
yeah,
A bit odd, but there you go. The director for this was Val Guest. Now, Val Guest did lots of films of many different genres.
yeah,
Yeah, he did loads and loads of different stuff. The writers, Val Guest co-wrote part of this, and Richard H. Landau, who did loads of TV stuff and that sort of thing. And it was the original story it came from was by Nigel Neal. Now, Nigel Neal did loads of TV and film work. He wrote loads of cult TV and film hits, and he wrote
yeah.
all of the original Quatermass stories, which
Mm,
were made into TV series and then and films and that sort of thing. This one was originally a TV series on the BBC,
yeah.
and then it was refilmed to make it into a feature film. So they didn't take the original TV series and just edit it. They refilmed the whole thing.
Film deal, yeah.
So it was a good. He wrote loads of really good stuff. One of my favourite ones of his is called The Stone Tape, which is brilliant. But it's this film, Quatermass Experiment. The cast is Brian Donlevy or Levy, who played Quatermass in all of the 50s films, as far as I'm aware. Jack Warner, who plays the detective and was on TV and radio a lot at the time, he was
Yeah,
very well known. Margia Dean, Thora Hird, who is famous for being on TV in the UK
yeah,
forever. Gordon Jackson, who some people might know from being in The Professionals. David Kimwood, Harold Lang, Lionel Jeffries, who's been in loads of British films. Probably most people will know most famously from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, being the slightly strange grandpa. Sam Keith, who again was in loads of different films. Richard Wordsworth and Jane Asher, who played the little girl who went on to be very famous in lots of other things and
mm,
wise and other things like that.
yeah,
Stuff. So, the synopsis for this film says Professor Bernard Quatermass's manned rocket ship returns to Earth, but two of the astronauts are missing, and the survivor seems ill and unable to communicate. Now, I saw this film years ago when I was a lad, and I've seen it a couple of times since then. And it is, I've got to say, it's one of my favourite old British movies. I
yeah,
really like it. I still think it works really well. I mean, there are a few bits of the effects and even a few bits of the story maybe that don't stand up, and the science that don't quite stand up to modern sort of
Yeah.
inspection as well as they could. But I still think it's a really good film. It's a really good story, and it works really well.
Yeah, for the I don't know. For me, I agree with you with parts of this. The fact that certain parts of it I think stood up and amazingly well. Like the saying about the effects, not so much, but there were parts of it that I thought were very well done. Like
Yeah,
the effects of like like his body deteriorating and the veins and stuff like that. Obviously, I know they're probably just drawn on or whatever, but they still looked amazing.
yeah, they did.
Um, him looking really ill as well. I know was probably not how he always looks, so that must he looks amazing. So I suppose some of the effects, obviously, for the time when they were done, I thought I was thinking to myself they must have looked amazing and must have looked really shocking. And okay, yeah, they don't stand up to a lot of stuff nowadays, but I think for then it was a very, very sort of outright thing to do. Not outright, but sort of a forward-thinking thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I
The
mean,
sort of the look of the creature and the look of the growth stages.
yeah. I mean it's funny. I think that the effects on the creature worked better when it was smaller.
Mm,
I think it looked really good when they had the small one, and they had the first little bit of it, and then it kind of grew and then got
yeah,
bigger and broke out of the glass tank they had. I thought those bits worked really, really well.
yeah.
And you got to remember, you're looking at the when it's full grown and it's at the top of the scaffolding. It was superimposed
Mm,
as kind of model onto real size scaffolding, and it was lined up really, really well, and it worked. It didn't look
no,
like it had just been stuck on top.
no, it didn't. And it's one of the things is, as I'm saying, with certain effects on it, it still stood up to the test of time. Like it still stood up very well. And I know that there's certain films that we've seen that are modern day ones that
Yeah,
can't get that lining up that well. But
no,
saying there's certain bits I thought, yeah, but that I put that down to age.
yeah,
And like you said, there's certain bits within like the actual wording and things are done because of the time. But again, I still think it's a very good film.
it is. I agree. I mean, the idea behind it as well, the story behind it is really good. And what I like is that Quatermass is kind of he's the main character in this, but he's really not likable at all.
No. And the thing is, I was thinking as well, it's the fact that this film was made in
55.
55,
Yeah.
which, if I remember rightly, is at least 5, 6 years before the first actual manned space mission.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we didn't go to the moon until was it 60? I can't even remember what year it was.
Yeah, so to make a film, even TV films or then a feature film or whatever, about something that people were worried about anyway, especially with what was going on.
And
It
we had
must have
very little
been,
knowledge of
yeah,
space at the time, really.
yeah, very little knowledge of what was going on. And the fact that, okay, yeah, the science doesn't stand up now, but a lot of it was the fact that this could happen. Must have obviously had a lot of more people on edge when they watched this film. But again, the fact that the rocket, I suppose, if you can call it that, um, and the suits to a certain extent, but the whole idea of the fact that there is still stuff out there that we don't know what could be out in the space.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this could theoretically happen, but the fact that I'm saying this has come up from an idea of come around an idea at the time that no one knew a lot about space.
No, I mean, I was just looking it up. The first manned space flight was in 1961. So this is
6
6 years
years,
before.
yeah.
And you
So
got to think about the fact as well that it was a year before this that it actually came out on the TV.
yeah,
So the actual story was written like 7 years before.
yeah. So I'm saying, so for someone 7 years before the first manned mission to sit there and write this story to say, look, this is, yeah, it's science fiction, but it could also be a fact
Yeah, yeah,
on little to no real evidence.
yeah,
But what I like about it as well is the fact that obviously I know the fact that he wrote loads more, and the fact that the way that it ended is blatantly. If you didn't know there was any more books or any more films or any more things, the way it ended is like I'm just gonna start again,
yeah,
and it's just like, oh, this, you know, it's gonna carry on. But even if it didn't, like, even if they didn't make other films, for him to go, oh, I'm gonna start again,
yeah,
it could have been perfectly fine left there
yeah, yeah,
because of the fact that, like it says in the newspaper articles, there's so much secrecy and everything behind it in the first place.
yeah, yeah.
And as much as there's certain bits of this I don't think stood the test of time. But that's because of stuff that was going on at the time. Like a lot of the things that were said and done and written about. But again, other than that, it is a good film.
Yeah, no, I agree. I must say, yeah, I mean, having said this is one of my favorite old British movies, I've got to say that I have a trouble working out if to choose between the Quatermass films, just the Quatermass films. I would have a problem with deciding whether or not this one or Quatermass and the Pit are the better of the Quatermass films. There are, I think it's either 3 or 4 altogether. But this one and Quatermass and the Pit are my 2 favourites.
Yes,
Um,
it does make me feel sort of, I don't know. Obviously, I know that certain films like this get called cult classics mainly because of the age, but I think this does the whole Quatermass Experiment sort of genre
yeah,
works as cult classic films because of the
yeah.
fact that they are that sort of typical film that you would see of a cult classic. It
Well,
it's nowadays dodgy effects and sort of the science that doesn't hold up, but then when these were made, they were pinnacle and peak of what everything was going on.
you got to look at as well at the fact that other movies that were coming out at the time that were science fiction films and that sort of thing were like they were what we would class, I suppose, as typical B movies.
Yeah,
The story really wasn't well thought out. The effects might have been better, though they might have been worse or whatever, but the story wasn't, but it was nowhere near as good in as much as the way it was made. You got some top character actors in this, people like Jack Warner and that sort of thing. He was on TV and on radio, a
mm,
character actor all the time. Same with Sam Kidd and a few of the other actors, and it just kind of like adds a little bit more depth to the
yeah.
characterization and the storylines.
But the thing, it's not just that; it's the fact that it shows. It shows obviously what the impact is because obviously, like we said about people that have gone on and done other things after this, so
Yeah,
it's made that effect. But I think with a lot of the films that are coming out at the time, they were a lot of the films that we class as B movies and stuff like that. It's because they were being pumped out because they could be.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
easier to make films and even B movies and all that. They could pump them out and all that. But to have a story, have a good story and be able to make a good film out of it was rare.
Yeah.
I think this is one of them rare occasions where
I must
it was a good film from a good story.
I must admit I still like the beginning of this is quite funny when it's kind of like you got this real dramatic thing going on where the rockets crashed and it's all this kind of stuff. And you go to the police station, this guy comes out of a room and he's grabbed this it's important lead, takes it into his boss, and his boss said, "Have you got it?" Gives it to him, and he plugs one in there, and he moves some stuff around here and gets something out of his drawer, plugs it into there, and he's got a razor.
Yeah, I did like that.
That was just, I just thought it was brilliant because it was so in keeping with the mood of the beginning of the film. It was so serious.
Yeah.
He's got the razor and he's over to shave.
Oh, this is what I liked about the beginning is the fact that, again, it wasn't a film that wasted time on trying to do special effects that no one knew, like the rocket bring coming in. Okay, yeah, I'm not 100% sure that a plane or a vehicle coming in at that fast would have stuck in the ground like a dart,
Yes,
but
true.
it's the fact that they didn't waste time on trying to fault that and show that, I
Yeah,
think was good.
yeah.
It did. I was saying I did wonder at the beginning though whether or not I was watching the right film. It sort of starts off with this. It starts off with this couple walking down the path, and it's quite a leisurely sort of stroll, and then all of a sudden, it was like, "Oh, okay, I am watching the right film." Okay,
There's some interesting. There are some bits where it's sort of like, and the cost of film probably stopped them doing much about it. But it was like when the fire brigade are training their hoses on the door, and only about 2 of them are actually hitting anywhere near the door. Some of them aren't even hitting the rocket. They're just
no.
like,
It's just this bit before that as well. When the one of the cars comes coming in, you can see the gate has closed a little bit,
yeah,
so they can't literally just drive into it.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
no, I did like it. It does show as well that I don't think nowadays it would happen because of the fact that someone turned up and went, I'm from the Ministry of Defence, and they went, all right,
yeah.
felt we must be. No one would lie about that. It's like, well, but the saying is,
The thing as well that got me was the fact that the actual crash site was probably if you look at the crash site, you look at how far the cars had to drive to get there. Right, it was probably about a minute or 2 away from where the gate was.
yeah,
But the people were running from where the crash site was to the gate, and then jumping on a car to get the lift back to where the crash site was. It was like, why?
and just again though, it's the fact that like they're keeping this whole thing as they've been told keep everyone back. But the 3 policemen that are on the gate let. Okay, I know you find out. You find out later on the fact that she's part of the MOD thing.
Yeah.
Just let her walk onto the field. Don't even bother chasing her.
And then you get a I want everybody cleared from around here completely. And
Yeah.
they moved them the other side of the dirt track from the gate, and there's a row of soldiers standing there stopping them moving forward.
Behind a rope fence.
Yeah,
Which I thought, yeah.
not really
It's just
that far away. Is
no.
it?
It's just I did like it, and it's just there's saying there's certain bits that didn't stand the test of time, but I think other than that, it is a good film.
It is. It's a great film. I still love it now. It's and the fact that they have to electrocute the thing to stop it from spawning, and it's great. I love it. And it was. I think it's a good film and it works within the time frame of when it was made and when it was set.
Yeah,
The story works within the time frame of the mid 50s.
yeah,
So it's a really good film, and it's good fun to watch. It's enjoyable to watch. Doesn't feel like you sat there for hours watching it because it's only about hour and a half long, if that.
yeah. I can admit though, it does show as well the fact that a lot of films now, a lot of people say are all coming out of the States and coming out of Canada and stuff places like that. But it shows that some of the films that people calling classics and calling like the sort of the gateway to a lot of the films around that are British movies.
We've always had a good reputation for making good fantasy style films and science fiction films. That's why people still come to us to do things like special effects and special effects filming, because we've had that history. And it goes right the way back to the 1940s. I mean,
But nothing to do with the fact that most English people are away with the fairies.
well, there is that too, but that's not the point. Right, thank you very much. Right, so there you go. We had The River, which we thought was a good film. Good stuff. Incoming, which we thought was a good film, maybe with something a little bit missing for us, but that was just for us. And Quatermass Experiment, which we both agree is a cult classic and really worth a watch.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you for your input, as always. Next week we have an interesting one, because I think it's going to be interesting to see, because I've got a feeling there isn't a huge amount of difference necessarily, but we're going to be comparing the 1968 version of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah.
1990 version of Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing about this is the fact that the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead is not one with fast zombies like the later remakes of the George A. Romero films were. So it's going to be interesting to see, because I haven't seen. Let me think. I haven't seen the original one probably for about 10 years, and I haven't seen the 1991, I think I've only ever seen it twice. And both of those times were in the 1990s. So I haven't seen either of them for a while. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see how
I
stack
I
up.
do love the fact though that there is a certain character that appears. I think he appears in both anyway. But if not, one of my favourite characters does appear in the 1991.
Okay.
Not characters, actors. I should say.
Actors. Who's that?
Tony Todd.
Oh, right. I don't know.
He's in the 1991. I know that.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the first one. After that, we are going to be looking at, not necessarily the next week after that, but in a few weeks' time, we are going to be looking at doing a couple of short films we've been asked to review and an interview with the guy who made them.
Oh.
And they're interesting because they're science fiction films with a slight twist. So, yes, we're going to be doing that. I say next week we've got the two Night of the Living Dead films. Week after that, we've probably got another normal episode. And then probably the week after that, we will be doing the two short films and the interview.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much to anybody who's watched, listened, felt,
waved,
imagined, felt the waves coming over the ether to them. And yeah, all I can say is we'll go for the month.
Can't even say that.
I mean that most sincerely. So, may all of your troubles be lepers? No.
May all your troubles be what?
Lepers.
Oh.
No, lepers. Leopards. No, not leopards either. Slippers. Armpits, amplitude. I don't know. What? Something. Anyway. And on that note, we will finish. Bye.
Bye.
The Sciforror Film Podcast.